Good Monday morning. You are watching a series on iterators in JavaScript. In last week's video, we explored the concept of higher order iterators, or the concept of having an iterator where we have transformed the contents into something else. Sort of how we can use map and filter on the array to transform the contents of the array. In last week's video, we created a function called delayed that just took an iterable and returned a new iterable, the same iterable, but where the flow was delayed by a couple of seconds. This is a concept that we are going to continue exploring today, and today we're going to write a map function, but for iterables instead of arrays. I am MPJ, and you are watching Fun Function. Full disclaimer is that today I am extremely tired and extremely warm. I'm so sweaty, everything is warm, it's Swedish summer, and I'm like, oh. But no matter, you cannot always have super energy levels. Sometimes you just have to lean into the problem anyway. As you well know by now, this show is sponsored by Pusher. Pusher takes the pain out of adding real-time collaboration and communication features to your app. Chat, pub sub, feeds, mobile push, you name it. Check them out at pusher.funfunction.com. That link is also in the episode description. Alright, let's do this. Here we are at the observable notebook from last week's video. I am going to fork this so that we don't overwrite that one. Now we have a new version of the notebook. After we're done here, you're going to find a link to this notebook in the episode description so that you can play around with this yourself. And before we get into creating map, we are going to fix a problem that has been disturbing me for a little while, and that is the fact that this thing is sometimes flashing. You can see it sometimes and sometimes not. Like that, there, it flashes, like there's that. And that is because the images are being loaded on the fly. And what I would like it to do is to preload the image before it displays it, so that there isn't a flash, but just a flick. The way we're going to do it is that we are going to implement in the same way we have a delayed function that creates a delayed version of the flicker tag search that we have created. We're going to create a function that is called preloaded, which creates a stream where all the images are preloaded before they are yielded. We are going to create a preload image function. And what this does is that it's going to take an URL, and it's going to make sure that the URL of that image is preloaded into the browser's cache, and then it returns a promise that will resolve to that URL. Oh yeah, done. I won't go too much into this code as it's not really related to the problem at hand. It preloads an image and puts it into the browser cache. That's what you need to know. Now, let's actually create the preloaded function. Function preloaded. This function is going to take an iterable. This iterable here, it assumes that to be an iterable of URLs. And those URLs are assumed to be images, and preloaded is then supposed to return a new iterable where every image is guaranteed to be preloaded. Let's just do it. For await const src of iterable. Yeah, there. There. If for await of confuses you, that is because you have skipped episodes in this series. There's an earlier version in the series where we talk about the for await of keyword. You can check it out there. We have the await keyword here. That means that we need to make this function async or the await keyword won't work. We could probably call this earls perhaps. Why not? And then we could just call each earl. So every time we get an earl from our async iterator here, which is earls, we are going to preload the image. And we're going to preload the image at that earl. And then we're going to yield that. Yeah. I mean, we don't really need to do any await here because preload image is going to return a promise anyway. So I think this is it. Let's try it. Oh wait, the keyword yield is reserved. Yeah, you can't just use yield randomly. You actually have to do it inside of a generator, and we add a little star here to designate that this is a generator. Okay, cool. Let's see if this works. Let's go to cats here and then wrap this thing into a preloaded. There we go. Together. Did that work? No, it didn't. All right, there's a well-known debugging technique among senior programmers, which is called like being frustrated and clicking around. Oh, it seems like it's iterating over the earls, over like as a string. So it's Yeah, this is due to observable being more helpful than we want it to be, or it's very nice that it's that helpful. It's just not good for the purposes of this, of me explaining things. The last function that we did the delayed function. Here we are manually creating an async iterator with code, but in our new preloaded thingy, we're using async generators to create the async iterator. And observable has some things that it uses to recognize that something is an async generator, and it does some helpful transformation of that. Like, it makes us not need this. It does this for us, which means that we're kind of doubly for each, like we are iterating over something that is already iterated over, and that is why we're getting these. If you look here, like that is why it's parsing it as strings all the time. So what I'm gonna do, just to end all of this confusion, I'm going to do it the observable way, and I'm going to delete all this, just the edge, and have just the HTML here, and I'm just gonna write cats here and hit enter. So it's cats here and cats here. And now it works. You see here, like there is no flashing going on. It's just snappy switches. While we are at it, let's actually refactor this delayed function into a generator as well, because the sync iterators, manual creation of them, it has been good to do that to make sure that you understand that where a generator is coming from, but generally you want to do these with the sync generators because the syntax is going to be so much nicer. I'm going to refactor this to just a sync generator. There, and yeah, as you see, like this compared to this, a lot shorter. All right, so let's start thinking about map. Flickr tag search here, there's not much data to map because Flickr tag search right now is, it's returning just one type of source URL. And that's a bit limiting because Flickr photos can be many different sizes, so it would be nice if the Flickr tag search actually didn't just return a bunch of URLs. It would just instead return objects that had URLs to representing different sizes of photos. So let's refactor Flickr tag search to do that. Alright, so now it's returning an object with a square URL and a medium URL. Alright, and then down here we have, like, this doesn't make sense, it should be photo, and now that we have this, that means that everything is broken. Preloaded is because this is going to now assume, like, this assumes that the iterator has a bunch of URLs. That won't work. It's going to be photo. It's going to need photo and hang on, photos. It's be photos for each photo. We're going to preload the URL. Okay, and now it works. However, this is a bit ugly. Preloaded is now aware of how photos look. That means that preloaded is it's aware of way more things that we wanted to be aware of. It was so nice when it was just like operating on an iterable of URLs. Now it's just aware of photos and like that's a photo square. So it would be nice if we could stick in a map function here that could filter out or like map out just the URLs so that preloaded can operate on those. So we are going to write a map. So remember that map is a concept in functional programming, and it's a method on the array. I actually have an interesting episode on map here that you could check out. What we're going to do is we're going to write map for iterators, and just like they work on arrays, they are basically a function that returns a new array where every item has been fed through a mapper function and been transformed. And in the same way, this is going to create an iterator where every item has been fed through a mapper and transformed. So it's a function that takes a mapper and it takes an iterable. And you know what? We can actually grab the preloaded function here and as a basis for this, because it's very similar. So I'm just going to call this map, and instead of photos we are iterating over a generic iterable, and for each item in the iterable we are going to feed it through a mapper, feed the item through a mapper and yield it. So yeah, that's it. And now I can add this here. This is getting a bit messy, and I know like this is way too nested. We're going to be dealing with that later. I promised. I'm gonna show you a cool way of dealing with that. But for each photo, we're going to extract the photo.s square URL. And now we need to go back to preloaded, and we're gonna throw out, revert back to just using the sources and preload image here. That does it. Yeah, cool. So now we're back, and we are now using map to feed, like transform each photo into just the square URLs, which is then going into the delayed transform, and then that thing is preloading each image. This is super messy to read though, even if I start indenting it in clever ways, like this. Hang on. And this. Like it's still not, like it's still just hard to follow. And the thing is, like this, from an architectural standpoint, this is pretty nice. It's just like it's a flow where we just feed from one function to another. It's like structurally, it feels like something that we want to do. It's just that the syntax here just makes it so hard to read. And this thing where we just have these functions that feed to each other, it's very common in functional programming. So there are helper functions for this in all functional libraries. So we're actually gonna pull in a functional programming language called Ramda. Ramda is, it has a ton of functions, and it's very easy to like fall into this trap of using Ramda for way too many things and just procrastinating on finding all cool Ramda method. But one very useful Ramda function is pipe, and it solves our exact problem here. I'm going to show you how it works. All right, cool. I've refactored this using pipe. So as you see here, we just call Flickr tag search cats, and that's an iterable, and that is fed into the function that is created by pipe. And pipe is just like this. These are the same functions. It's just that we have put them in wrapper functions for now, where we just, the iterable is fed here through the first one, and then like it's called with map, and then whatever is returned there, it's goes into here, and then that is fed into the delayed, and whatever is returned from this function here is going into here, and it's going to here. So it's a bit reminiscent of promises, and then, you know, how everything is fed through the next then. This is still very verbose, and we're gonna simplify it a little bit. I'm just walking you through every step here. Iterable here, when you see that like this, this means that this is it's a bit superfluous function. We can actually just pass preloaded in immediately. This, however, is not unnecessary. We need to actually pass in the iterable to delayed some way. Like we can't just do this. Or can we? This is where I'm going to show you a technique called currying. So if we look in delayed here, I can just open delayed, and if we just do this instead, delayed, if we make delayed into a function that takes a number of seconds, delayed, delay seconds, and then return this function. So we can remove this argument here because we've now moved it over here. So let's see, like we have now created this function that makes another function, and this is called like this is called currying or partial application, or I don't know exactly what it's called, but it's a technique of building functions up gradually. So that means that this thing here, sorry, forgot a comma, is now creating a function that will create the iterable. So it's like delayed here is now creating a function that is very suitable for passing into pipes like this. And we're going to do the same for map here. Actually, I'm going to make map curryable, map equals mapper, and we're gonna remove that from there because we have moved mapper over here. And I'm gonna save that or update that, which means that I can now remove this wrapper here. And now we're good. Oh, sorry, I forgot. Comma. And now it should work. Yes! So that's a lot more readable than the thing we saw before. So the way it works is that this thing here, like the iterable that we're creating from Flickr tag search, that's passed into map, and then it's being delayed, and then it's being preloaded. Some people like to name these things. So if I create perhaps extract earls, and then I grab that and I go back here and I just go like that, because that creates like this self-documenting thing with small functions. Bit of a matter of taste, and also like a matter of context. I think that this is probably a little bit overkill because this has so little complexity. It's pretty clear what it's doing. I would probably leave it just inline, to be honest. But it's something that you can do. One thing that you might have noticed while we were copying the preloaded thing is that it seemed like map and preloaded was a bit similar. Perhaps we can use map to implement preloaded? Can we do that? Let's just comment that out for a bit and see if we can do that. Preloaded. Perhaps we can just do map and then preload image. Enter, and it works. I can delete that. So in this case, perhaps like this extra little variable here, perhaps that's a bit unnecessary. Perhaps we could actually inline that here. Can get rid of this extra thing here. You know, delayed. Perhaps we can we do this here as well? Isn't this kind of sort of the same thing? We can actually just break out delay into its own thing. Get rid of this here so that we make sure that we're using that. And this is, it's not quite the same, but let's try implementing it with map and see where we're going. Let's see, delayed map, and it's this thing. We get an item, and we await for delay seconds. Hang on, we need the delay seconds, and then we yield the item. Does that work? Does that work? Wait. Oh, and this needs to be async. Async item. The keyword yield is reserved. Oh yeah, it needs to. No, we don't need yield. We just need the item, right? It's broken. I think it's kind of like because it's getting confused what we're awaiting. I think we need to do this. Or maybe not. Oh, maybe it's no. It's or item. Oh, that works. So can I remove the parens there? Do I need that? Can I do that? Could. All right. Okay. So now we've replaced this with map, and this really shows you why map is so incredibly powerful in functional programming. You just code just evaporates. Is this extra step unnecessary? Can we inline this in cats? Does that make sense? Let's try that. A2. Yeah, I suppose we could. It's just not very, like, this is a lot of garble. It's not super readable. Like, this seems straightforward to me. This seems straightforward to me. This, not so much. I think that keeping this here makes sense. This is pretty clear. Makes for a nice flow. So this as an extraction makes sense, I think. Delayed, you get to stay. I'm not gonna inline you. And that's map for async iterators. I hope that this broadened your horizons a little bit. I hope it was interesting. It showed you a little bit what we can how powerful async iterators are and what we can do with them. There's a lot of functional programming in there as well. I showed you a little bit of pipe, a little bit of currying techniques. If this episode confused you, that is completely normal. It means you're learning. Post a comment down below asking your questions or wonderings or confusion. Or if you want to support the show, you can become a patron of Fun Function for just a couple of bucks. And that gives you access to the Fun Forum, which is a friendly and fun place where you can discuss code and life and stuff, and this episode with me and other programmers. There's a link to the topic for this episode in the Fun Forum in the episode description. Do check it out. And don't forget our sponsor pusher.funfunfunction.com. Link is in the episode description. You have just watched an episode of Fun Function. I release these every Monday morning of 800 GMT. You can subscribe here so that you don't miss it, or you can watch another episode right now by clicking here. I am MPJ. Until next Monday morning, stay curious.